When it comes to brand image, it doesn't get much butcher and more brash than Jeep. So how is that going to transfer to the electric era? Well, here is the new all-electric Jeep Avenger to answer just that question. I say butch and brash, but the Avenger is a really interesting one because it's quite a small car. In industry speak, this is called a B-segment SUV, which to the rest of us means that it's a rival for things like the Renault Captur, the Nissan Juke and the Ford Puma. But credit to Jeep, because it really has kept the Avenger really quite dinky. So it's only 4.08 metres long, this car, just over 4 metres. It's actually slightly smaller, slightly shorter than those rivals. So if you're actually looking for kind of, you know, a chunky about town SUV, this is really good in terms of being kind of like really parkable. So I really quite like that because I think it's a trend that cars are getting bigger. And despite that sort of compact chunkiness of the Avenger, Jeep has managed to squeeze in a 54 kilowatt hour battery, complete with a 250 mile WLTP range. But it's a Jeep, and yet this is front wheel drive only. There are no four wheel drive variants. So some people are certainly going to want to know how good it is off-road because it's a Jeep and it still needs to deliver on that front. We'll find out when we drive it. In the meantime, Jeep has certainly kept plenty of the trademark styling cues, and I do think, you know, I think it's a brilliant looking thing. None of your sort of derivative kind of forgettable stuff here. I really like the grille, so you've got the trademark sort of 7-bar Jeep grille here. You've also got the chunky plastic cladding, which Jeep says is designed not only to look good, but genuinely it's been designed to, you know, stop you from scuffing the bodywork if you do have a little scrape in a car park. They really have kind of thought about the practicalities of it. And like I said, I think it looks absolutely great. It's even got the trademark X's in the rear lights as well, that sort of light signature. So it's unmistakably a Jeep, just condensed. So I think that's very promising. Now, let's find out about practicality. The boot gets 380 litres of space, which is not bad at all. Sure, the bigger Nissan Juke and Peugeot E2008 have a little more space, but you're going to get a single buggy in the back of the Jeep Avenger, no problem at all. When it comes to rear passenger space, I would say that the Avenger's not bad really. If you're an average sized adult like me, then I think you're going to be absolutely fine. I would add that this feels quite high, the sort of waistline of the car, so it's not the brightest back here and there's no centre armrest. So, I mean, it's not a touring car and it's not really a car that's designed to lug about 4 6-foot people, is it? But I think in the scheme of small family cars, it's pretty good really. The dash in the Avenger is a really striking piece of design too. The colourful inserts in our test car are standard on the first edition that we're driving here, and the horizontal lines and squared off looks carry on from the theme on the outside, and they really do look great. There is also masses of storage cubbies, and you can even get high-end features including electric seat adjustment and even massage seats in the Avenger. A 10.25-inch touchscreen is standard on every version, which includes wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and TomTom navigation as standard. So, the Jeep Avenger, this car is really interesting because it is a new era for Jeep, as it is for many brands at the moment. But if you think about what Jeep stands for, the fact that the Avenger is extremely compact, it's front wheel drive only, it really is a step change for them. So the brand is going to be launching another 3 pure electric SUVs by 2025. And on the evidence of this one, well, I think they could do really, really well with them. Now, I'll be honest, I don't know what I was expecting from the Avenger. I like Jeeps, I like them a lot. I like the big, proper Jeeps. I like the Wrangler, I love the Wrangler, it's fabulous. Safety ratings aside, but we won't go there. It's just one of my favourite things. And this, I was like, well, this is the other end of the scale, isn't it? But you know what? They've done a really good job of it. I really like the way this thing steers. It's got a really light-footed sort of response to it. The steering's quite precise. It builds weight quite nicely. It's very light, I have to say. So you've got your drive modes as you'd expect. You've got the normal, eco and sport, the usual. Very light in eco and normal. And initially I thought that was perhaps a bit too light, but actually around town and that kind of thing, I really quite like it. Gives it a really wieldy feel, given that it does build weight enough when you're going around roundabouts and that kind of thing that you feel confident. More than that, it's got a reasonably decent turning circle of 10.5 metres. I'd like to have seen that be a little bit better given how compact this car is. But when you're talking about, you know, this car is actually basically virtually the same size as a Volkswagen Polo. It really is a compact car. So turning circle aside, it's still really easy to kind of, you know, jink around town, and it feels like a very practical little car. And I like that. There aren't enough practical little cars. Everything's big and heavy. And I like the fact that this isn't. This is pretty decent on that front, and it feels nice and light. Comfortable too. So the ride is quite firm. That back axle, you definitely get a bit of a thunk over expansion joints, that kind of thing. Slightly sort of sharper intrusions in the road. But generally, I like the fact that it's well controlled enough that you don't get that kind of pitch and heave, a bit of a rebound that you get in a lot of heavy EVs. Often that's fine, but in this, I think that they've done really well to make it feel very controlled, and I think that's a fair payoff for slightly firmer suspension, because I actually find that more comfortable in the long run when the car is just a bit less body movement and slightly firmer. So I think this is going to suit a lot of people, and I don't mean firm enough. I don't think it's going to be really jarring or anything. I would add that the roads around here, well, we are up on the roads above Nice at the moment, very beautiful mountain roads around here, and they're rather smooth and well maintained, and not like the roads in the UK. But certainly from what I've seen of the Jeep around the towns around here, I think it's going to do really well in the UK in terms of ride comfort and in terms of the sort of nice, neat, tidy handling. Good front end grip. I don't think anybody buying in this class is really going to mind that it's not four-wheel drive, especially because Jeep has gone to extreme lengths actually to make sure that it is still a decent off-roader by the standards of these small SUVs. So it's much more capable if you do want to go off the road than anything like a Renault Captur or a Nissan Juke, which aren't at all really for that. So the Avenger, they really have looked at how it can cope well off-road despite being front-wheel drive. It's got the company's select terrain system, so using the same drive mode switch down here, you can toggle through down to sand, mud and snow. That changes the traction control and all of that stuff to make this as effective as possible in those conditions. And the company really has looked at things like the front and rear overhangs, the breakover angles, all of the stuff that really does matter if you do find yourself quite a long way off the beaten track. I haven't driven this off-road myself, so I am taking Jeep's word for this, but certainly from what I've seen of a demonstration they did earlier, just showing the kind of angles it could do over some fairly extreme kind of side angles, it's pretty good. I don't think you're going to expect that of anything else of this size. Jeep has gone to some lengths to make sure that they're living up to the company's reputation, despite the fact that obviously it's not a four-wheel drive. It's certainly not Rubicon rated or any of that stuff. It's good. I like it. I really like this car. I like the way it drives. I even quite like the interior. I like this colourful finish in here. It's got some really cool ambient lighting that changes when you change your modes and all of that stuff. It feels funky, but also functional. I like you've got the aircon switches down here, proper switches. That's all straightforward. The screen is nicely placed in your eye line. Reasonably easy to use. I think some of the menu layouts could be a little bit better, but it's got all the functions that you want. It's quite neat and tidy, and it's, again, well thought out. So you've even got your little cubby down here with your wireless charging in there. In fact, you know what? It's got quite a lot of storage in here for what it is. I think the company really has gone to some lengths to try and make this feel different to everything else in the class, and I'm all for that because a lot of stuff does feel quite derivative and samey. So all credit to Jeep for that, and for making a car that I really find much more fun to drive than I expected. Added to that, it's quite efficient. So there's a standard heat pump on the Avenger, and that means that it's actually, well, that's part of the reason they've managed to get a 250 mile WLTP range out of a 54 kilowatt hour battery, which is a 51 kilowatt hour usable capacity, by the way. So you're actually only charging and discharging 51 kilowatt hours, even if it's got 54 kilowatt hours in total. And by my maths, that means that this thing's got an official miles per kilowatt hour of very close to 5 miles per kilowatt hour, which is extremely efficient. That in EV speak is like saying that a car's doing, 60, 65 mpg. It's very good. Now, a heat pump is something that you pay quite a lot for on a lot of the Volkswagen Group cars, for instance, so it's great that it's standard on this, and it helps with efficiency in cold weather because it means that you're heating the cabin more efficiently, basically. Again, that was because Jeep are very conscious of making sure that people see this as being the rugged off-road option, albeit in a small city car class, basically. There are only 2 high-spec trims coming to the Jeep Avenger range when it arrives in 2023, with deliveries expected in the summer. There aren't any monthly prices confirmed yet, but it has been announced in chief European markets it will start at €249. So it's reasonable to expect that it should start from something like £300 to £350 per month for these higher spec UK versions. it certainly needs to have those competitive monthly costs if it's going to rival alternatives like the MG4. So if Jeep can get this to the UK, £30,000 and up, I think they are absolutely onto a winner. I think they're going to sell it like hotcakes. It looks absolutely brilliant. It's cracking to drive, really good packaging. I just love it. I really do like this car, perhaps even more than I expected. It's a really chunky, fun little thing. So all credit to Jeep. It's going to be a winner, I reckon. Now, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the CarGurus UK YouTube channel, and please do turn your notifications on so that you don't miss any of our other videos.